I once visited a friend who's a pastor of a church in Davao City. People had been talking about how God's presence was so strong in their church, so I had to check it out for myself. When I got there, what I saw was an old church building. Wala naman siyang pinag-iba sa iba pang mga lumang simbahan na nakita ko at nabisita. But when I went inside, it felt very peaceful, very inviting. As I sat in the pew, I just then had a strong urge to go down on my knees and pray. And I had a sense that God was right there listening to my prayers. Many people I talked with had that same experience in that church. They testified that as they passed by the church building, they would see its gates open and the building well lighted. And surprisingly, they would feel drawn to come inside. And they would be inspired to sit on the pews and pray as well. That place, Davao Chinese Baptist Church, became the center of a prayer movement that swept the whole of Davao some 10 years ago. This experience reminds me of something I read about the Celtic Christians from the old Ireland many centuries ago. They talked about thin places. The place where the curtain dividing heaven and earth was very thin, and the presence of God would fill our side of the world. In these places, the presence of God would be strongly felt. They happen to be places where people would be faithfully praying to God for long periods of time. I'm sure you've been to a chapel or a church building where it felt so natural to pray, where God's presence felt so strong and you could talk to Him on a personal level, as if He was very near. Now, don't ever think that there are only few places here on earth where God would show up. The thin places I referred to became thin places because these were places where people spent much time in prayer. I'm sure when it all started, it wasn't, a thin place. But because people kept coming there to pray, I imagine God being very happy to always show up in that place. Any place can become a thin place because God is present everywhere. When you pray, wherever you are, and you pray earnestly, fervently, in spirit and in truth, I'm very confident to say that God will likely show up and make His presence felt. And I guess if you keep praying at that exact place every time, all the time, who knows, there might come a time when that place becomes a thin place as well. The Bible reminds us that God is present everywhere, and there is no place where He is not present. This is what God declared in the book of Jeremiah. Am I a God at hand, declares the Lord, and not a God far away? Can a man hide himself in secret places so that I cannot see him, declares the Lord? Do I not fill heaven and earth, declares the Lord? God is everywhere. There is no place on earth where He is not present. Any place in the world is a place where you can pray. So wherever you are, make it a habit to pray to God. Whether you're staying in one place or you're in transit, and you have that opportunity, consider that place a thin place and pray to God. Remember, in seeking the presence of God wherever you may be, faith matters too.